So, having a little bit of trouble. I don't know what it is. I mean, I guess it's to do with the internet connecting to my computer, and maybe not. I don't know what the deal is. But here we are. So that's fine. We're just running a bit late now. And the recordings, Leanne, I'll get you to, when you do it, I'll get you to send me the other one and also this one as well. And so then I can actually post both of them on Facebook, as long as the first one's not too confusing. And so I apologize for that, but hopefully, I guess you guys had a little chat and maybe did your meditations. And that's, if we practice the Dharma, right, the part of the practice of the Dharma is patience. And sometimes things don't always go according to plan like that. And also, none of us planned to have a global pandemic either, did we? None of us planned to have to, deal with any difficulties or any obstacles on the Dharma path. So it's really up to us to be patient, patient with ourselves and our life conditions as well. And obviously practicing the 6 paramitas, or 6 perfections. Paramita is a Sanskrit word and a Pali word. It's not like the paramitas in English. It's a different thing, okay? Paramita, it actually means to go beyond to the other shore, you could say. At the moment, we're on a very dangerous sort of shoreline, you could say, using a metaphor, samsara. And, now we want to go to the other shore. And the Dharma is kind of like the boat to get us to the other shore. But we have to row the boat. We have to make the effort to get to the other shore, to perfect the paramitas, or to perfect the transcendental perfections. Called transcendental because they transcend the normal, transcend the dualistic thinking. I know that sounds big words I'm using, but think about it. It's really easy to understand how we think dualistically. We can also use the phrase conceptually. Dualistic means 2, right? So in other words, things always have their opposites. So if you think perfect, then you think imperfect. You think good, there's bad involved. You think I like, I don't like. All of these, they always have opposites. So we use the word transcendental perfection there because it transcends these opposites. Ultimate truth doesn't have this dualistic thinking or these opposites, okay? But we don't understand that yet, and that's fine, but at least we can understand the concept. And there we go again, conceptual thinking. We tend to think based on ideas, conceptual or concepts, okay? So when we practice the 6 transcendental perfections, we are helping ourselves to go beyond that. But we're not there yet, obviously. So we need to practice the first 5, based on the 6th one, of course, even though we don't have it yet. The 6th one being perfection or transcendental perfection of wisdom. The wisdom aspect is what makes the other ones perfect. But we need to practice them right now, even though we are imperfect. So we need to practice generosity. We need to practice morality. We need to practice patience. We need to practice effort. Also, we can use the words diligence, or we can diligent or enthusiastic perseverance. Use 2 words there for the word effort. We need to practice concentration so that we can develop generosity, develop morality or ethical conduct, especially mentally, so that we can develop patience and develop this enthusiasm and this perseverance and this concentration that we need to be able to realize the supreme wisdom, okay? So they worked all together, but they also work in a linear form as well. For instance, if you practice generosity, if you become more and more generous, then you will become less and less attached to yourself, attached to stuff you like, And also you'll be free from aversion to things you don't like. When we have less attachment, and less aversion, we are less likely to behave in a bad way. So then it's much easier for us to be moral, to practice morality. So practicing generosity helps us to practice morality. Because we're going to be less worried about getting stuff. When we are immoral or act in an unwholesome way, this is because we're trying to get stuff and then trying to push away other stuff we don't want. Think about it. Even though we are good people, us here, we still are not perfect yet, and this affects us or affects us. So generosity helps us to be moral. The more moral we are, the more patient we can be. We don't feel guilty about anything anymore. And the mind becomes much clearer when we don't feel guilty about stuff, when we don't have regret and remorse about that which we may have engaged in with our mind, with our body, and with our speech. We're able to deal with the difficulties within our own mind with patience. We're also able to deal with the difficulties in relation to the outside world, whether that be to do with communicating in the outside world with other beings, or whether that be to do with interrelating physically, being out there physically, having difficult circumstances with our body, for instance. Maybe you get a sore neck, sore back. Maybe people abuse you verbally or speak to you in a harsh way. You be patient with that. The more patient and resilient we are, the more we're able to practice enthusiastic perseverance, or the more that we're able to be diligent or make great efforts. The great effort to maintain a wholesome mind and to free ourselves from the unwholesome mind. With enthusiasm, the more enthusiasm we have based on realizing that this is good for us, that practice is good, the easier it is for us to make this effort, isn't it? And the more we make this effort and experience some good results along the way, the more enthusiastic we get. So the enthusiasm and the perseverance work hand in hand together. Or you could use, if I use the example of a ladder, and climbing a ladder, like the 2 feet getting up the ladder. Very difficult to hop. Not impossible. But anyway, then of course with this effort and working diligently to have our mind be wholesome, not unwholesome, then once again, to use similar words that I used before when explaining about being moral and having less to regret, etc., then of course, the more our mind is wholesome, the more often it's wholesome, then it's easier for us to practice meditation and to develop this concentration. When the mind is more concentrated, you could say, or able to focus on whatever object it is we've chosen to focus on in our meditation practice, the more then we're able to utilize this concentration to be able to work out what is real, what is not real. In other words, to give birth to wisdom, give rise to wisdom. So you can see in an order, generosity decreases attachment. Therefore, we can be moral. Morality helps to create the conditions for us to be more patient and resilient. The patience helps to create the conditions for us to be enthusiastic and persevere. With this enthusiasm and perseverance helps us to develop the concentration. And the concentration then helps us to develop true wisdom. So you can see how they work in an order. But of course, they have to all be based on each other too, isn't it? All intermingling with each other. Because the ultimate, of course, is the wisdom. You could say the first 5 relate to compassion. But more specifically, if I use better words, they relate to skillful means or skillful methods. So practicing generosity, morality, patience, effort, and concentration are the means or the skillful methods that give birth to wisdom, or allow us to give birth to wisdom, or give rise to. Then, of course, and this is going a bit further, but I won't go too far, that with this wisdom, when this is perfected, along with the other 5, then this becomes, like I said before, the ultimate bodhicitta. And this gives rise or gives birth to enlightenment. To paraphrase again, so the perfection and unification of wisdom and method, or wisdom and skillful means, or wisdom and compassion, then that is enlightenment. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But we've got a bit of work to do, I think. Actually, this makes total sense. If you think about all of the other possibilities of how our existence came to be, or is, or will it end, or whatever in the future, think about this. This is the only way it can be. How can it not be possible for you to be able to attain enlightenment, for your true nature to be enlightenment? Think of all the other things. What do we call it? It's like process of elimination. Eliminate all of the other possibilities of how we live and how we came to live. And then you will come to realize this is the way. Of course, we can attain enlightenment because it's our true nature. Of course, even on a relative level, right? Of course, the law of karma determines, our actions determine the effects of, or our causes determine the effects, of course. And then, of course, to break this, to free ourselves from the causes, then there's no effects. Of course, this is the way it is. And I'm not speaking down about any other religions or whatever, but imagine if there was some superior being, some supreme being running all of this. It's almost like maybe he's playing chess or something with us. It's really crazy to think that way. I think it's nice, some of the teachings, obviously, in the other philosophical and religious traditions, some of them are very beautiful and everything, but to me, but not based on reality like Buddhism is. In relative reality, we have cause and effect, interdependent origination, continually changing, impermanent, but also able to free ourselves from this. So we cause this. We create this, our own little personal world. We create that. Then collectively, we also create the world we live in and the conditions we have as well. Now, going the other way, that, let's say that you live this lifetime. Of course, you get to the end of the lifetime, nothing happens. That's called nihilistic view. The other one I mentioned before, to do with the superior being creating everything, that's called eternalistic view. These are two extremes. But the Buddhist path goes beyond this. And the way to do that is to perfect the paramitas, okay? As well as all of the other teachings that the Buddha gave, that we need to put into practice. So let's look at my little notes here. So bodhicitta, the big picture, comes in 2 types, relative and ultimate. Like I mentioned, the ultimate is achieved when we perfect the wisdom along with the compassion, along with those first 5 of the paramitas. Okay. Relative bodhicitta comes in 2 types as well. This is what we need to develop right now. It's really important that we develop this great altruistic compassion. More and more and more and more. At the moment, you could say our compassion is very limited, maybe limited to the beings that we love and that we like and maybe don't fear. But we need to develop this mind, the altruistic intention, the bodhicitta, the mind of equanimity, free of bias. Okay, and there's 2 types of relative bodhicitta. The first one is aspirational. This is to aspire to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all living beings. Aspire to help lead, you could say, or at least influence other living beings to do likewise and attain enlightenment before you even. This is the aspiration. Then the second type of relative bodhicitta is the practical, to put it into practice, both mentally as well as physically and verbally. Okay, to actually have all of our being work now to develop this bodhicitta and, renounce the worldly ways and work towards enlightenment, change our ways towards enlightenment, the bodhicitta intention. The worldly ways, you still can enjoy them, no problem. Try your best to do it without attachment. Music, you can enjoy that. Performing it, listening to it, teaching others to perform it, teaching others how to listen to it well as well. You can do all this. Try to do with non-attachment. Driving a car, walking down the street, a lot of people think, oh, this is worldly ways. But actually, really what we're talking about is our attitude, isn't it? So if our attitude is to just please our senses, to gratify our senses, I want something, I'm going to get it. I will satisfy my desire for it. Or I don't want something, I want to push it away. This type of attitude, this is worldly concerns. This is worldly existence, you could say. We want to turn our mind away from that and work towards developing this bodhicitta, developing and perfecting these perfections, and eventually attaining what we call enlightenment. That's renunciation. Okay, renunciation. And so then the next level, you could say there's 3 aspects, you could say, of the path here. The first one is renunciation, like I just mentioned. The second one is really developing this bodhicitta beyond limit. And the third part is the wisdom aspect. Okay, so renunciation, the great compassion, and the supreme wisdom. What else can I mention? So I mentioned practiced in order. I mentioned as well that this practicing the first 5 helps create the conditions to give rise to the wisdom, or to clear our mind, you could say, so that the wisdom shines. Give birth to our wisdom is another way to put it. With this wisdom and the other 5, as well, I want to talk about today, but we can talk about them after the 6 paramita teachings, which probably will take us, 6, 7, 8 weeks, something like that. I won't rush them, that's for sure. And okay, so there's that. Wisdom and method I've mentioned. Skillful means can also be known. Wisdom and skillful means, or wisdom and merit even. Wisdom and compassion. Now, to counteract bad karma, so we need to engage these. You could say them, utilize them, or thinking about them right now as antidotes for the unwholesome states of mind, but also antidotes to help to purify the negative karma, and also increase the good qualities, and to eventually perfect these good qualities. The good qualities, of course, we're talking about the paramitas right now, but there's many other good qualities that we already have. You know, they can all fit under the words compassion and kindness, isn't it? And they all help us to develop the wisdom that is needed. And so we have had infinite lifetimes, but even if we don't worry about that for the minute, we've just had this lifetime for the moment. Just think about this lifetime. You may not remember it all from when you're a baby. I'm sure you don't remember. Maybe there's some things you may remember by having a little bit of a little push and from seeing photographs and people talking about it. I've said to my mum and dad before that, you know, there's certain things I remember from being very young, but I'm not sure whether it's because they spoke about it or the pictures that I've seen, or, you know, hearing, maybe even from a distance, hearing them talking about to their friends about certain things. You know, it may just be memories of that I think that I remember those experiences. So not too short. So there's many things we don't remember in this life even. So how can we possibly remember in a previous life, in a different body, different realm even? Somebody, I just share this with you, that there was a guy that I met in the US, probably about 2 years after I started teaching, and I was actually teaching one class a week at the Silai Temple, Foguansan Silai Temple. So the Buddha's Light Mountain in the West Temple, which is a very large temple order out of Taiwan. Master Sin Yun, also my friend, and also regarded as my teacher as well. One of my teachers there is Master Hui Hai. That's his master as well. Okay. Unfortunately, Master Hui Hai passed away a few months ago now. Some of you may remember that. Anyway, so I was teaching one class a week there, and I met this guy who was a truck driver, American, Western guy, and very polite. He was delivering water. This temple is very, very large. I think the largest temple open to the public in probably in the Western world. Or maybe I've got that wrong, but definitely in North America. And so a lot of visitors. They used to get a lot of visitors. So there's lots of you know, big water containers all around the temple grounds. They even had a small museum in the temple with, you know, Buddhist artifacts and things like that too. A brilliant place, a lovely place. And so he asked me, I was teaching the teenagers there and some of the children. And so he said, oh, so you're a Buddhist teacher. Do you teach adults? I said, yes, I do, but not at this temple, at my home temple, which is, you know, for 30 to 40 minutes from here. And so he started to come to my classes, and, you know, he knew nothing about Buddhism. And initially he joined because he was going through a split up of his marriage, and he was trying to sort of relieve some suffering, I guess, learn to be a better person, you know, better parent and so forth. And anyway, so he came to this class, and we were talking about rebirth and the law of karma, as well as some other subjects. And he said, teacher, if we had previous lifetimes, how come we can't remember them? And I said, what did you do last week, Michael? He went, what? I said, well, how about last Monday? This was a Saturday. What did you do last Monday? And he said, oh, you know, I went to work. I said, no, I want all the details. Every single thing you did last Monday, from getting up in the morning and going to the toilet and cleaning your teeth. What did you do? What were the words you spoke throughout the day? And then he said he couldn't remember. And I said, well, How is it possible for us to remember a previous life if we can't remember 5 days ago in this body? So, you know, there's many things we don't remember from previous lifetimes. You know, there's many, many things. There are some things you may remember. The French have a word or words, a phrase, déjà vu, which I think means and again, or something like that. I should remember because I actually lived in France, but that was in the mid-80s. So my French is, I never learned it in writing. I only learned it from hearing. And so I did do quite well actually for a period, but my pronunciation was, I always found it difficult to pronounce in French. So anyway, déjà vu, we have these experiences, we've had them before. Another way to really contemplate whether this is real or not, what I'm saying, if you think about those, I mentioned music before, those kids in different parts of the world, at 5 years old, they can play Beethoven, you know, all of the great classical, they can play them like that. How did they do that? It's not from 5 years of practice. This comes from, you know, memory. Some people would say muscle memory. You just have this naturally in you. I found it easy once I started learning music to you know, pick up the guitar. In fact, I was teaching beginners guitar after I'd only, I think, been going to 1 year. I've been playing for like 1 year. And then my guitar teacher at that time asked me to start teaching the beginners. So I picked it up easy. And some other things, you know, simple mathematics I found very easy. But then some other subjects I wasn't so interested in and found them kind of complicated and difficult. So there's many things. If you can think about your lifetimes, you can look back as things you picked up easy. This is because you've done them before. Has to be. Things you find really difficult, maybe you fought against in the previous life. How come some people we get on really well with and you don't even know them? And then other people, you really hate them when you first meet them, but you didn't know them in this life. There's some connection there that you had before. And so it's absolutely, at very least, rather than thinking about, because a lot of us are born in Western countries, so maybe brought up with the concept of the monotheistic traditions. Mono means one, theistic means a belief in a God, and so the one God type religions that come out of the Middle East, you know, predominantly Christianity, Muslim, and Jewish. So maybe we've been affected by that a little bit. So rather than looking, I think, at the law of karma and rebirth, rather than looking at it and say, how is that possible? Maybe you can look at it and say, how is it not possible? Actually do it both ways. But how is it not possible? Because maybe we've been conditioned by those other ones, or some of you have been conditioned by the other traditions that have different beliefs, that you think, oh, you have all these doubts about if the law of karma, if cause and effect is real. But if you think about it, how is it not real? Relatively real. Maybe that's a little bit more helpful for you as well. Okay, so I went on a little bit long about that, but that's okay. I digressed off the 6 parameters for a second, not really actually, because that all relates to the wisdom aspect, doesn't it? So reinforce our good qualities. We all have good qualities. Even if we're the grumpiest person in the world, or even those really evil people throughout history that we know about, they had some good qualities. And I say this not belittling the terrible things that this person did himself or initiated other people to do as well, but someone like Hitler. And I say it with a little bit of humor here, that I believe, I've heard stories that he really loved his dog and cared for his dog. See, that's some good qualities. Maybe the same with his girlfriend. Some good qualities, but unfortunately, of course, superseded by so many terrible qualities, so many harmful and evil qualities that will continually reinforce. So you can even see that even the most evil person or people around still have the good qualities that they can work towards. They just have the habit of not doing it. The habit is to take some sort of pleasure in harming others and themselves and so forth. Okay, so we all have good qualities, and we need to practice these 6 paramitas, especially the first 5 right now, to increase these good qualities that can all be fitted within these 5 first of the 6 paramitas. Okay, and maybe I think that's enough for that at the moment, but I do want to give an example. I thought about the example actually while I was trying to get connected earlier for the class, and hopefully it doesn't happen next week, by the way, the disconnection or something, but at least now I know how to get in. So what I'll digress slightly here, Leanne or Alicia, whoever's host next week, I'll try to get in the normal way that I get in. It may just have to do with connections or something to my computer, but I'll do it early. I'll come on, 5 or 10 minutes early, and then if it doesn't work, then I'll go through the rigmarole, which is how I got in eventually. So the example, I was actually trying to get in, and this little wheel was going around and around and around and around, connecting on the computer. I thought of this example. It may not be the most perfect example or the best example, but think we're going to build a house or some sort of building, okay? There may be generosity. This can be likened to the idea of building the house. And then maybe even utilizing effort to start organizing it. Start to get all of the materials that you need, or organizing someone else, like a business, builders or something, to organize all these materials, or even the architect, things like that. It's like generosity. Then once the house starts to get built, you have to have really strong foundations. I often say that if you don't have strong foundations, then the walls and the roof come tumbling down eventually. So this is like morality. These foundations are like morality. And then you can have the patience is the building of the frames. Strong, because patience is such a strong state of mind. It's not passive like a lot of people think. It's very active in maintaining a good attitude, making the efforts in the right direction. Not getting blown down when things don't go our way. So this is now, the patience is like strong frames of the house. Then you have making the effort now to build the house more and to put the walls, start to get all of these things in there, like the bathroom, the toilets, things like that. Making the effort to do all of the smaller details in building this house can be likened to the effort or the enthusiastic perseverance. Then, of course, the actual outside of the house and the walls, as well as you could say the roof, we're building that, and we need concentration to do that. So that can be like concentration. When the house is complete, totally complete, safe, everything is working well, all of the plumbing in the house, electrical stuff in the house, everything is working really well. Now it's really stable. That's wisdom. But that includes the other 5, doesn't it? Because without the effort to, start to implement making the house or coming up with the idea, then making it, building the foundations, building the framework, building the walls, and the ceiling, and putting all of the little minor details in there, like the bathroom, the basins, and electricity, the plumbing. They're all within this now perfect house. So within this wisdom, you could say, generosity, morality, patience, effort, and concentration. Is that a decent example? Because I've never heard it before, but I wanted to come up with one that you could take with you for the end of the class. I'm really, in a sense, even though we had difficulties before with me hooking up to Zoom, in a sense, it's been better, hasn't it? We've had a longer Dharma talk. I'm able to leave you with at least a decent example that I wasn't going to even think about before. I only come up with it while I was having those difficulties with the internet. So now we're under 1 minute, and I hope everybody stays safe. Make sure that when you're studying the Dharma, to do that, just study. Make sure when you are contemplating the Dharma to just do that. And then once you come to some understanding, to absorb your mind with it, with a meditation practice, and then also have it in your lives, always in your life, okay? So live the Dharma, live by the truth. If you practice to understand the truth, eventually everything will be true. So, as always, I rejoice in your goodness, and I appreciate you.